This is why you should never have two best friends, but instead, one friend. Be careful of being the third wheel. When I was in high school, I had two best friends, Naomi and Cassandra. One Saturday night, we went to a party. When we went back home, we didn't have rides back home. Also, by the way, when we were in the party, Cassandra met this guy. When we stood outside the party looking for a way to get home, the guy Cassandra had talked to earlier had pulled up in his car. And he asked her if she needed a ride. She, of course, asked if he could take me and Naomi home. He said yes, but he only had room for one more person, and he told her to choose. And she chose Naomi. And in that moment, I really realized who were really the best friends. I asked him to please not leave me there alone, so Cassandra asked the guy if he could come back for me and pick me up. And being the good guy that he was, he said yes. But when they left, he never came back for me.
Story time on how I got food poisoning from a restaurant I worked at. For legal reasons, I will not be saying what restaurant it is. So I'm really picky with my food, and I would always either cook the food myself, or I had this one cook that I trusted. But one day I got sent to a different restaurant. Same restaurant chain, same owner, just different location. So at the end of my shift at that restaurant, I ordered my food. I ordered a grilled chicken sandwich, and I specifically said I wanted the chicken cooked crispy. So I got my food, and after a few bites, I see that the chicken is not cooked. Like the inside was still raw, and I had already eaten half of the sandwich. So I threw it out, and I went home. That night, I started feeling really sick. Like I can't even explain it. It's like nothing I've ever felt. But I take a Tylenol, and I go to bed, but I just cannot sleep. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I got food poisoning at the restaurant I worked at. So I just could not fall asleep. And I was tossing and turning all night. Around 6 a.m., I get up. That's the time I usually get up to get ready for work. And I kid you not, as I was in the toilet with diarrhea, my head was in a bucket throwing up. Yes. I was doing both at the same time. So I had to go to the hospital because this has never happened to me. I can't even throw up without making myself throw up. Not that I do that, but you get the point. So I got to emergency. They do some tests and they told me I had food poisoning. So, they took care of me. I called the manager, let him know that I got food poisoning because his cook did not follow instructions. And he said he was going to talk to him. And I quit a month after that.
Story time on how my whole school caught lice. We even had to take a week break from school. Okay, so this happened in the middle of my freshman year of high school. So there were these 3 girls, which we're going to call them Kayla, Rachel, and Maddie. And they were the first ones to have lice. Reason being because they were a clique and they hung around each other a lot. But rumors said that Kayla was the first one to have it because she had a dog that had it. Anyways, Maddie was a part of the cheerleading team and ended up giving it to the entire cheerleading squad. Rachel had a boyfriend and her boyfriend ended up giving it to his entire basketball team. And from there, it kept on spreading. Teachers would make awareness to the point teachers caught it and even the principal caught it, which made the principal had to close the school. But to this day, Kayla denies even having lice, even though her best friends Rachel and Maddie said that she gave it to them.
Why you should always check which way you're going when you're driving. I don't care if you feel like you know you're going the right way, always check. So I went to Fort Lauderdale with my cousins on an audition. So this is pretty far from where I live, about 2.5, almost 3 hours. But honestly, it's not that bad. We made a day of it, we had fun, I was nervous, but it was fun. But obviously we couldn't stay forever. Some of us had work the next day, I had school, online school, but still school. Anyway, picture this, it was 7 p.m. and we were on our way back. I called my mom and I'm like, hey, we're gonna be home around 10, which is the correct math, right? And it's a good time to get home. We all agree, we begin our journey. It starts to get dark. My sister stops for gas because she was the one driving. We realized we only had about 25 minutes left in our journey. The first mistake was taking the GPS off. She turned that thing off. It's okay, we're so close to the house. So we left the gas station, began to drive on the highway again. And kept driving. And kept driving. First time I noticed something was wrong, I was sitting in the back with my cousin. She was asleep and my other cousin was in the front on her phone. My sister was, of course, the one driving. This was taking much too long. We should have been home already. No one was saying anything. So I decided to GPS on my own. Okay, so this is part 2 and why you should double check which way you're going. So you remember that I said that we should have been home around 10? Yeah, it was closer to 11 now. So I just GPS'd our house. According to the GPS, we were heading in the wrong direction, and we had been for 45 minutes. Ayo! Shock on everyone's face when I told them, I think we're going the wrong way. My sister driving, what do you mean we're going the wrong way? Dude, I'm looking at the GPS. We should have been home already. We are headed the wrong way. My cousin who was asleep wakes up. Suddenly everyone's checking their phones. My sister starts looking at the sign. Guys, we were an hour away from my house. Oh my god. The panic that ensued. How did you not see the signs in the road? How on earth did we start going the wrong way? You were up front with her. How did you not check? Why weren't you paying attention? If I hadn't said something, we would have been at the beach by now. It was hilarious. We got home around midnight. Added a whole 2 extra hours to our trip. Unnecessary, completely unnecessary. Turns out when my sister got out of the gas station, she went south instead of north.
She almost lost her eye because of me. Story time. So in college, I used to have the worst roommate because she would always take my stuff without my permission and then not return it. And I would always tell her like, hey, I don't care if you use my stuff, but at least ask me so I know, you know? She didn't care though. She continued to use my stuff anyway. Now, one of the things she constantly took from me were my eye drops, which was super annoying because in college, my eyes were constantly dry from like staying up late and doing homework and things like that. So I told her like, when you use my eye drops, please put them back because I need them. But of course, she did not listen to me and continued to take them without putting them back. So I did what anybody would do. I dumped out all my eye drops and replaced it with super glue. But I did tell her like, hey, this is not eye drops, this is super glue, so don't use it. And she didn't believe me and used it anyway. But don't worry, she didn't lose her eye. It was just shut for a couple days.
Story time. When I was in the 7th grade, there was a janitor named Fred who would always speak to me after school whenever I stayed late. One day I was staying late for tutorials. As I was passing by his closet, I noticed his cart hanging out the door. So I peeked my head in to see if he was inside. As I looked, I didn't see anyone in the room, but I can see a leg on the floor. So I moved the cart, and Fred was laying on the floor passed out. I was so scared, so I ran to the office and told them what I had seen. Long story short, the ambulance was called, and we were told Fred had a heart attack and could have died if no one found him.